Well, last night was the first and probably only debate between Donald Trump, former president of the United States, and Joe Biden, the current president of the United States. I said before this debate, it was going to be one of the only debates in my lifetime that really, really mattered. It was going to be a turning point in this process because there's no new information that's been added to this process for legitimately a year. And it was going to go one way or it was going to go the other. But the worst possible thing that could happen for Joe Biden was for him to show up on stage and fall apart. And that is precisely what happened last night. Donald Trump was disciplined. Donald Trump gave the best debate performance of his career, but he did it on a night where Joe Biden assumed room temperature. Joe Biden effectively died on the stage last night. I don't even mean that in terms of a figurative performance. I mean, he looked as though he was physically going to die on the stage. It was pretty horrifying on a sort of emotional level to watch an 81-year-old man being trotted out there by his team, by the Democratic Party, by his family, to be humiliated on national television in front of hundreds of millions of people. As an American, it was deeply depressing and disturbing because you know that the most evil people around the world are looking at this and they are licking their chops. They feel like they now have a window between now and when Donald Trump presumably takes office in January where they got to go. The world just became a much more dangerous place. But the feeling when watching this was stunned disbelief. Just absolute stunned disbelief. Because I think everybody kind of thought, okay, so they'll shoot Biden filled with that cocktail of his, and he'll probably just make it through. It'll probably be okay. And then the question will be whether Trump is too volatile or Trump blows right past the moderators or whatever it is. And again, we'll get to Trump's performance, which I thought was outstanding. For Donald Trump, this was easily the best performance of his life. He kept himself contained. He kept himself restrained. He was pointed when he needed to be. But this debate was not about Donald Trump. It was all about Joe Biden. And that is why this race is now all about Joe Biden. The sheer panic breaking out among Democrats this morning is astonishing to watch. There is open talk, not like behind closed doors, open talk by nearly every major Democrat in the media, including public officials, about whether they even have the ability to remove Joe Biden from the ticket. Remember, we are less than 2 months out from the Democratic National Convention. All the delegates have already been pledged. They would have to force Joe Biden on a personal level to either resign the office to Kamala Harris, declare that he is not going to run again and thereby free up his delegates, or they would have to wrest it from him in some sort of coup. And by the way, it really isn't the DNC. The DNC is all for optics. They actually have a sort of fake DNC, a virtual convention, where they are going to ensure that the nominee is nominated. That is 40 days from now. There is no time for any of this if you are a Democrat. The state of insane panic that is breaking out in the Democratic Party is amazing. But the conclusion last night is that Donald Trump absolutely crushed Joe Biden because Joe Biden is not alive. He is not with it. He is senile. And this brings us to another conclusion. The media are some of the most abject liars in modern history. They are such liars. Now, we all knew this already. We knew this about COVID. We knew this about Black Lives Matter. We knew this about election 2016, election 2020. We knew this. But the legacy media, they should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, it is humiliating and sick what the legacy media have done. Remember, they've spent 3 years declaring that Joe Biden is mentally fit. Not just mentally fit, doing back handsprings and reciting Virgil in Latin. They say that Joe Biden is so... They've been telling you not to believe your eyes, not to believe your ears, not to believe your brain, that the things that you are seeing and that you're hearing, they're all fake. They're just cheap fakes. When you saw clips of Joe Biden wandering off into the woods, or Joe Biden falling upstairs, or Joe Biden spacing out as he stares into the darkness, like Simon and Garfunkel. They kept saying that was all fake. It was all in your mind. It was all in your brain. It was all in your head because you're the crazy one. Folks, Joe Biden is dead. That's what the debate proved last night. It proved that Joe Biden is not with us. And by the way, he's a terrible president, a terrible president. The cost of living is up almost 20% from 2021. Families everywhere are feeling that burden. The legacy media that lie about that. They've been lying about Joe Biden's health. They lie all the time. They are lying also about our economy, which is one reason you need to start saving money today. And that is why I refer you to Pure Talk. You should go check out Pure Talk right now and find a great way to save some money. If you're one of many American families looking to cut down on your monthly bills, you need to start with your cell phone service. I recommend Pure Talk because it's both affordable and reliable. Pure Talk is rapidly becoming the wireless company of choice for conservatives. Plus, it's great for families because the more lines you add, the more you save. Not to mention, Pure Talk is veteran-led. Instead of funding DEI initiatives, they fund basic services for vets who have served their country. 100% of their customer service team is located right here in the United States. If you're looking for ways to save money for your family, I highly recommend switching on over to Pure Talk. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro to explore their offers. When you make that switch, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month of service. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro to upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. Save yourself an extra 50% off your very first month of coverage. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro today. I just want to play this because this is important. This is just a few weeks ago. This is a montage of a variety of Democratic commentators praising Joe Biden's mental stability and fitness after a Wall Street Journal article came out 6 weeks ago talking about how Joe Biden clearly behind closed doors was losing it. And by the way, not just behind closed doors, like outside of closed doors, to pretty much everyone. And everyone in the media went nuts. Here is just a bit of a montage. It's a much longer montage of members of the media proclaiming that Joe Biden is healthy, well, fit, brainy, intellectual, witty, and with it. Here we go.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation is remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed. Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas. There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake.
Ageism is an issue.
Okay, and it goes on and on like this. Okay, we don't even have to play the whole thing because you could have done this on a consistent loop for 3 years. If we were all watching Joe Biden fall apart in real time, and all these people were telling you that you were crazy. And then last night, they got abjectly destroyed by their own lies. And now they are in a state of panic too, not just because they think Trump is going to win, and they're right about that. Not just because it's now obvious to everybody that Joe Biden is senile. That's true. But because their own credibility just exploded into tiny bits of shrapnel last night. All of which means that the threat that the media poses to the country, it's very real, because what that means is someone else has in fact been running the country for the past several years. The person we saw on stage last night is not capable of running a country. He is not capable of walking to a bathroom. I'm not even joking about that. We'll see tape a little bit later on of him being guided off the stage by Jill. As I say, I come back to the words. Like I started off last night and it was amusing. And then the more you think about it, the sadder it becomes. Someone else has been running the country. It is not Joe. It might be Jill, Edith Wilson style. Maybe it's all the Obama holdovers. Whomever it is not Joe Biden. And you know who knows that? All of America's enemies. The world became so much more dangerous, regardless of the election, when the president of the United States performs like a befuddled Alzheimer's patient at early bird dinner at the nursing home. That is a horrible look for the rest of the world. Do you think Iran is scared more now, or are they scared if Trump is president? Right now, Iran, if you are seeking a nuclear weapon, Iran is going to accelerate that process dramatically before January. China, if they're thinking about blockading Taiwan, they're going to do it before January. If you're Russia and you're thinking about a massive war move, you're going to do that before January. Because the president of the United States is non-compos mentis, which means that, as I said earlier, you've seen the media. The media are actively now stumping for Joe Biden to be removed from the ticket. Which is insane. Understand that it is currently the end of June. We have July, August, September, October. That's it. We have 4 months until the election, and they are talking about removing the incumbent president and major party nominee from the ticket right now. It's not us on the right. It is people on the left. Okay, so I want to start this from the beginning. We'll go through the debate in detail, and then we'll get to the response, because the next several weeks in politics are going to be unprecedented in American history. So the debate starts, and right away, you know this is going to be very bad for Joe Biden. Right from the very beginning, from the very first moment, because after the anchors introduce themselves, both men walk on the stage. We'll play it, and I'll narrate it to you if you're just listening. This is why you should subscribe over at Daily Wire, by the way, so you can actually watch the whole show in its entirety and uncensored. Here is the beginning of the debate.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
He can barely move. He looks terrible. Randomly pointing to people. He looks stiff. He's ungainly. He can barely move. And then he stands behind the podium and he looks stoned. His pupils are the size of saucers. And then here comes Trump. And Trump looks exactly the same as Trump has always looked. Donald Trump has been preserved in amber for years. He looks exactly the same as he looked in 2015. Joe Biden looks as though he is no longer living. And that was just the very beginning. That was the very beginning. And off the bat, you're like, okay, this is going to be dicey. Listen, we in politics have been watching this stuff. We've been watching Joe Biden do this stuff. And I've been saying for a long time that watching Joe Biden do a press conference is like watching Nick Wallenda walk across a volcano on a tightrope. You're not watching because you're interested in seeing Nick Wallenda walk across the volcano on the tightrope. You're watching just in case he falls off the rope. Last night, Nick Wallenda fell off the rope into the volcano. So the debate begins, and Joe Biden comes out, and from the very first moment, he's incoherent. He starts talking. He's clearly got something quasi-memorized, and he starts to garble it. The signals start to cross. I don't know if you've ever had like a really long night. You haven't slept in like 2 days. And no matter how hard you're trying to get something out, it just won't come out correctly. That was Joe Biden last night, except all the time. And by the way, he set the rules. Joe Biden had a week to prepare for this debate. He went to Camp David. He did no press conferences. He did no work. The world's on fire. And this guy went off to camp where he was lectured by a bunch of adults, going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, resting up and setting every rule. The New York Times reported yesterday, every rule of this debate was demanded by Joe Biden. No audience, microphones that mute. These were all rules set by Joe Biden. Okay, so it was not possible for there to be a friendly environment for Joe Biden since he had literally preset the entire environment. And Donald Trump had done, it turns out, the brilliant thing of having just accepted. Some people like me were kind of skeptical of that. We're like, maybe he should have fought back about the crowd. There's no crowd. Maybe he should have fought back about the mics. But Trump recognized that the minute he did that, then Biden would likely pull out and cite Trump's negotiation as a rationale for not doing the debate. So instead, he just accepted. Because the question that you have to be asking yourself after this is they all knew behind closed doors this man is senile. They all knew it. And then they put him out there anyway. And there's an old saying, an old aphorism. Better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and that be confirmed. That was Joe Biden last night. So here's the very beginning of the debate. Joe Biden talking on Trump's economy.
We're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess.
Okay, so again, Trump was very lucid last night. I haven't talked a lot about Trump yet because, again, Trump isn't the story. But here's the thing. Trump could have been the story if he had turned in a bad performance. Trump last night was excellent. I don't mean good. I mean excellent. He had his moments. About 45 minutes in, he got distracted by some of the January 6th, 2020 stuff. When he was talking about his own trials and tribulations, obviously he has a tough time avoiding that landmine, but he did it better than any time I have ever seen. He was disciplined. He knew what he was doing. He stayed within himself. He did not attempt to overrun the rules. He did not attack the moderators. He was given time. He filled the time. And there were some devastating moments for Joe Biden that were at the hands of Donald Trump. Donald Trump did an excellent job last night. He looked hale. He looked healthy. Maybe he was taking his balance of nature. See, here's the eternal truth. Vegetables not pleasant to consume. You know who knows that? Donald Trump. He talks about it a lot, actually. I don't like vegetables either, but here's the thing. With balance of nature, fruits and veggies, you actually don't have to like vegetables. You can still get the nutrients. Balance of nature, fruits and veggies is the most convenient way to ensure you get your daily intake of fruits and vegetables. Balance of nature uses an advanced cold vacuum process that encapsulates fruits and veggies into whole food supplements without sacrificing those natural antioxidants. The capsules are completely void of additives, fillers, extracts, synthetics, pesticides, or added sugar. The only thing in Balance of Nature's fruit and veggie capsules are, like the fruits and the veggies. You need nutrients to function at your best each and every day. Balance of Nature will help you do just that. It is a kosher product, which means that I take it You know, could have used some Balance of Nature last night? Joe Biden. That dude wasn't alive. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code Shapiro. Live your healthiest life. Go check them out right now. Balanceofnature.com. Promo code Shapiro. And it turns out that in debate, particularly presidential debate, the moments that tend to matter is where one of the candidates channels the thing the audience is feeling. This, by the way, is true just in terms of entertainment and TV. There's always one character on every show who's kind of the voice of the audience. It happens on a lot of comedies, a lot of dramas too. Always the most popular character is the person who says the thing the audience is thinking, but they're not willing to say. And so on All in the Family, that was Archie Bunker. He was always saying the thing about Meathead that everybody felt about Meathead. So in 2020, Joe Biden had that line. In the first debate, when Donald Trump was way outside himself and he was yelling and he was ranting and he was talking over people, and Joe Biden eventually turned to him and said, "Shut up, man. Will you shut up?" And everybody, even people on the center, on the right, were like, I mean, he won't shut up. That's kind of true. Right? He was saying the thing out loud. Last night, Donald Trump became the voice of the audience because we were all watching in horrified silence as you watch this train slowly chugging toward a ravine where the tracks end. So, very early on in the debate, Joe Biden made the signally false claim that no American troops had died on his watch. And Donald Trump absolutely smoked him.
As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
Yeah. Again, he had hits like that. But the story was Biden. So even in his sort of rote lines, his one-off lines, Joe Biden was unable to fulfill the dictates of the English language. He just couldn't. He couldn't fulfill the basic rules of grammar. So check out clip 6. Here is Joe Biden talking about tax cuts. He mixes up in this clip trillionaires and billionaires and million and trillion. He's incoherent, folks.
That $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million.
Again, not with it. And that became perfectly clear in one of the takeaway clips of the night. So at a certain point, Joe Biden just started rambling about Medicare and Medicaid. And he ended with a line that is going to go down in presidential debate history. And Donald Trump just puts him through a wall. I mean, just puts him through a wall here.
Everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security.
Meanwhile,
he will
Biden's
wipe out
looking
Medicare.
stoned.
So he was right in the way he finished that sentence, and it's a shame.
I mean, Joe Biden looks right there as though death is coming at him on the stage, like the sixth sense. He's seeing things no one else is seeing. As Matt Walsh said last night, he is seeing into the afterlife already. He's standing there, for folks who can't see it, and he is gazing, gape-jawed and stony-eyed, into a mid-distance that does not exist, into another dimension. That line there that Donald Trump uses, I mean, Biden opened himself wide up to it. I beat Medicaid. We finally beat Medicaid. He needs a mission accomplished banner on an aircraft carrier. We finally did it, Jill. We beat Medicaid. Of course, Donald Trump was going to put him through a wall. Now, again, one of the things about Trump that's fascinating is a point that I made last night on the Daily Wire Backstage. That's on our feed. You can go check that out as well. It's worth a listen. It was right in the aftermath of the debate. So one of the things that's really fascinating about Donald Trump as a nominee is sort of the innate wisdom of making him the nominee. Now, listen, I didn't support Donald Trump in the primaries, right? I supported Ron DeSantis as a voter in the primaries. He wasn't on the ballot by the time it got to Florida. When it comes to this race, however, the magic of Donald Trump is very simple. There is no new information about Donald Trump. He will say nothing that shocks you. He will say nothing that is capable of appalling you, because it turns out that you've heard it all before. And what that means is that he can take heterodox positions with the base, because he has earned trust with them, that no other Republican can. So last night, he was asked about the abortion pill. Now listen, as a pro-lifer, I think the abortion pill is a grave evil. I think it is a serious moral quandary and problem. Donald Trump has taken the most moderate position on abortion of any Republican of my lifetime. He's able to get away with that because of the trust that he has earned with the Republican base. He's going to get 99% turnout with the Republican base. But also, it means that with the audience, there's nothing he can say that is particularly shocking, which puts all the focus back on Joe Biden. If you imagine for a second, a more conservative and, dare I say, intellectually serious Republican candidate, Ron DeSantis, for example, up there, and he takes the hard pro-life position, suddenly the debate becomes his pro-life position. Donald Trump didn't do that because he can stick and he can move, knowing that no bad information really can harm him and that the base loves him. So here he was last night on the abortion pill.
As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it.
Again, that is a position that is heterodox for Republicans to take. Trump can get away with it. One of the big issues, obviously, on which Trump hammered the living daylights out of Biden was on the border, which you would expect. This has been Trump's signal issue since 2015. And under Joe Biden, the border has absolutely exploded again. I urge you, if you have not seen the episode that we did about the border, the divided states of Biden, you should go check it out behind the paywall at Daily Wire. Plus, it's a disaster area. Well, Joe Biden was comatose last night on virtually every issue. He could have used some coffee, maybe from our friends at Black Rifle Coffee. See, I love Black Rifle Coffee, but I don't always have time to brew coffee the traditional way each morning. That's why I love Black Rifle Coffee's ready-to-drink cans. Ready-to-drink coffee is perfect for people who need their coffee quickly, like during the break. Biden should have chugged 4 of them. Each contains at least 200 milligrams of caffeine and is available in a variety of flavors, like vanilla bomb, salted caramel, mocha, and vanilla caramel. Black Rifle Coffee is a veteran-founded coffee company operated by principled men and women who honor those who protect, defend, and support our country. With every purchase you make, they give back. Stop running out of coffee. Sign up for a Coffee Club subscription to have Black Rifle Coffee delivered straight to your door on a schedule. Coffee Club subscribers receive their high-quality coffee at lower prices with free shipping. Plus, they get early access to exclusive deals and prices. So, save money and drink America's coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to view their entire collection of premium roasts from light to extra dark. You can also find Black Rifle Coffee in grocery and convenience stores near you. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Again, blackriflecoffee.com. Best coffee in the business, blackriflecoffee.com. So here's Donald Trump hammering Joe Biden about the border. And then we'll get to Biden's response because, again, this debate was not about Trump's excellence so much as it was about Joe Biden falling into a hole in the earth and never again appearing. Here is Donald Trump.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't.
Look at Biden. Okay, this is the thing. Trump's talking, what he's saying is perfectly fine, perfectly good. Joe Biden is not with. Every split screen was a referendum on Joe Biden. Every single split screen. So Roger Ailes on Fox News, formerly of Fox News, he used to have a way of evaluating how people were doing on the TV. He would turn down the sound. If you turned down the sound on this debate, Joe Biden loses immediately. Immediately. Remember, this is after like 25 years of plastic surgery, and they shot him with uppers, and he had a week arrest. Woo. Okay, so here was Joe Biden's response to Donald Trump talking about the border and abortion. The utter incoherence. He's not there. I can't say to him, he's not there.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
What is he jabbering about? What the did he just say? What was that? I mean, listen, I'm glad that someone is apparently taking on the scourge of sister on sister. Apparently, it's like Joe Biden's high priority. He's like, don't worry about the illegal immigrants murdering people. Sometimes sisters other sisters. Sometimes in-laws other in-laws. And then border state lines. And, all the mockery that I did of Joe Biden leading up to the debate, there would be points where it just faded off into oblivion. They came true. They happened. I'm not going to say that I'm a prophet or anything. But frankly, I don't think it took the powers of prophecy to foresee the possibility this would happen. All it took was not having your head directly up your ass so far it was coming out your own face again, like the rest of the legacy media who were lying to you this entire time. Okay, here was, again, the signal moments of the debate. The number one moment in chronological order was the Donald Trump, you beat Medicaid to death. After Joe Biden said that we beat Medicaid. Like, how do you beat, here was the actual signal moments of the debate. Okay, so Biden is talking about immigration, and he just falls apart. He starts speaking Swahili. He starts speaking in tongues. The Spirit comes upon him, and he just starts making sound out of his mouth hole. And Trump just, there are no words. Here we go. This is the moment.
When he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Yeah. Accurate. Fact check true. No notes. 10 out of 10. Would ride this ride again. Would stay at this Airbnb. Yes. You laugh so you don't cry because that's the leader of the free world. That's the leader of the free world. That is the occupant of George Washington's office. And Trump's lying there. I don't know. Oh my God. We're all sleep deprived after watching that debate, but my goodness, I don't know what he said at the end of this. Frankly, I don't think he does either. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I got to say, Joe Biden, he's the kind of person where you get up at 2 a.m. and he's wandering around in the kitchen because he's lost his way. And if that's ever happened to you, sometimes it can be scary. You have a member of your family and they're like wandering around in the middle of the night. Is it a bad guy? Is it a member of your family? The last thing you would like to do in that situation is use deadly force. This is why you should have the Byrna less lethal pistol launcher, developed by a team of common sense gun owners who understand the importance of having choices. They engineered the Byrna launcher as a powerful tool for self-defense, allowing users to de-escalate threatening situations without resorting to deadly force. Now listen, I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets. I got 4 pistols, I got an AR, I've got a shotgun, but the possibility of using non-lethal force in my home, it's a nice idea. And if I can do it, I really should. For me, the Byrna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both the user and the aggressor and minimizing the possibility of terrible mistakes. The Byrna is an indispensable tool to keep you and your family safe. It's legal in all 50 states. No background checks or permits required. They've received over 15,000 4.5-star reviews. Hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Byrna can ship directly to your door. It's not just an option, the Byrna. It's an essential component of responsible non-lethal protection. Visit Byrna.com/Ben for 10% off your purchase. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. And check out the latest news about Byrna. That's BYRNA. And it just continued along these lines. It was just like this kind of the whole time. And again, Trump stayed on point. So, clip 14. Here was Donald Trump responding to Joe Biden suggesting that he had killed people and that he had gotten people killed. And again, it was an incoherent point. And here was Trump's response, which was actually on message and on point.
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous,
every state is now a border. Is a great line,
insane,
by the way.
and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally
Biden's face. Look at his face.
An uncivilized country now.
Look at Biden's face.
He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know.
It's amazing. I mean, truly, again, Trump was very good, and Biden was the worst debate performance I have ever seen in my entire life, bar none, no contest, no question, not a technical knockout, a full-scale knockout. And it wasn't just that he was senile. He was also crotchety. He was like the worst of Biden on all scores. So there's a point where Biden kept relying on these stories that had been largely debunked. So we'll get to his Charlottesville lie, which he keeps telling over and over and over, and Trump thoroughly fact-checked him on the stage over it. But he also relied very heavily on the so-called suckers and losers comment. So there was a story in The Atlantic several years ago, in which it was claimed that Donald Trump, in visiting the beaches of Normandy, had called the fallen soldiers suckers and losers. And that was trafficked in The Atlantic anonymously, and then denied by pretty much everybody. And Biden tries to trot that out for sympathy and then mentions his son, Beau, dying. It's like all the worst of Joe Biden. And then he gets crotchety and tries to call Trump a sucker and a loser. And he just looks unhinged. If the idea of this debate was make Trump look unhinged, Trump was the sane and responsible personality on the stage last night. And Joe Biden needed a cleanup crew. His adult diaper was full last night. Here was Joe Biden.
I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. Okay,
and he starts repeating himself. So he had a bunch of verbal tics last night. The idea of that was a big verbal tic last night. He kept saying it over and over. Every time his brain farted, he'd go, the idea of that, the idea of that, the idea of that. Just terrible stuff. Now, again, I thought the foreign policy part for Trump of this debate was easily the best part of the debate for Trump. I thought that it was truly excellent stuff, like grade A, uncut, pure political cocaine. Really good stuff here. So here was Donald Trump talking about the fact that the veterans and the soldiers, they actually like him, and that Joe Biden's foreign policy is an embarrassment. He is right about this. Donald Trump was pummeling him on policy, and Joe Biden was walking into walls last night.
Our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him.
That is a fact, by the way.
They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. So he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
That right there was some of the best stuff in the whole debate for Trump. And Trump had a bunch of moments. That was like the best stuff, because the truth is, there is no argument that Joe Biden's foreign policy is anything but trash. And here was the thing. Trump didn't even have to make the point that Biden was senile, which is the big takeaway from the debate. All he had to do was pummel him on policy, and he actually did it. He actually did it. By the way, he had a follow-up point on policy that was phenomenal. So he was talking, I enjoyed it on a very personal level. So Joe Biden suggested that everybody wants a ceasefire. The Israelis want a ceasefire. We want a ceasefire. Only Hamas doesn't want a ceasefire. Now, Trump comes back at him, and Trump says, actually, Israel does not want a ceasefire. Israel would like to win, and you are preventing them from winning. Fact check, true. Here is Donald Trump on this one.
You got to ask him, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
He's become like, what he's trying to say there, by the way, is that they don't even like him because he's not radical enough for them, but he is acting like a Palestinian, or at least an advocate for the Palestinians. That's true. That is 100% true. Okay, again, best of Trump, worst of Biden, and that delta is massive, massive. Okay, in just 1 second, we're going to keep going with this. I'm going to go through the whole debate, man. This is a historic moment in American history, this debate. First, I got to remind you, new movie coming out in theaters this July 4th is being brought to you in part by Daily Wire Plus. Jeremy Boring announced on Thursday our partnership with Angel Studios to bring you a brand new film. It's called Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. You might know Angel Studios from their incredible movie Sound of Freedom. Obviously, You Do is a huge hit, had a big impact in the world of entertainment and in the world at large by shining a great light on the child trafficking crisis. Now, Angel Studios is back. They're continuing their fight for kids. Daily Wire Plus is proud to join them in that fight. Sound of Hope is the true story of 22 families from a rural church who adopted 77 kids from the foster system. If you missed the town hall last week, we have a trailer for you guys so you can get a feel for what the movie is all about. Take a look.
Are you sure these people want us?
I know they do. You can call me Mama. Oh, Lord.
If we can't wrap our arms around the most vulnerable, then what do we have? Noise! And the children can't take the noise anymore.
This is something that we must do.
22 families want to adopt. Whole town wants kids now.
That's about right.
What's happening with Possum Trot could mean a huge change for the system.
I've seen the movie. It is powerful. It is inspiring. It is awesome. We do have a Sunday special coming up with the bishop who serves as the basis for the film, who's an amazing person. And the movie's really important. You should go see it for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's actually important for people to see strong religious institutions portrayed well on the big screen. We need more films that hope, inspire, and don't instill doubt and cynicism. So go to the theater starting July 4th. Sound of Hope tickets on sale right now. Get yours at angel.com/Ben. Okay, meanwhile, so Donald Trump, as I say, showed so much more discipline last night than he ever has in a debate before. And I think that's because he understood the change in incentive structures. So in 2016, Trump figured he wasn't going to win. And so it was like, let it all hang out, man. Just say whatever you want to say, do all the things. And then he won. And in 2020, because he'd won in 2016, he figured he could do the same thing and he could still win. And also he could not believe he was going to lose to this guy. This time around, Donald Trump actually listened and he actually did the thing. So as you know, if you're a regular listener to the show, for weeks, I've been advising publicly that if asked about January 6th, Donald Trump should say, January 6th, 2021, whatever you think about it, does not matter. November 5th, 2024 matters. Whatever you think about me in election 2020, I left office January 20th, 2021. And this guy has been president for the last 3.5 years, and he has botched this job. He has mutilated this job. He has Jeffrey Dahmered this job, right? That's what he should say. So Trump was asked about January 6th, and he did it. He did the thing. People were tweeting last night that I must have been jumping up and down in the room. Basically, yes. He took my advice. It was great. Here we go.
What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible.
Good for him. Yes, good. Excellent. Now, he was asked to follow up by Tapper, and then he talked about January 6th and how it was misconstrued for some of those people. And he redirected toward what Democrats did in 2020 by allowing the entire country to burn down. And all of that was fine. But the initial response is the message to the American people. Donald Trump can do discipline. Donald Trump can do sobriety. And he did it last night. He really did. And then he did it again. So he was asked by the moderators about seeking retribution against his political enemies. And what I had suggested is that he say that his retribution will be success. And also, the only person on the stage who's exacting retribution is Joe Biden, who's sicked his DOJ on him. And you know what Donald Trump did? He did the thing again. It was great. Here he was, clip 24.
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Now, I will say, I think that Trump did miss a kill shot here. Trump could have just said right here, listen, you should have been prosecuted over your mishandling of classified documents. The only reason that you escaped a felony charge on mishandling of classified documents is because the prosecutor said you are effectively mentally unfit to stand trial and in the throes of senility. I wonder why he might have said that. I wonder, and then you call him a liar. Was he a liar, Joe? Was the special prosecutor a liar when he said that you are effectively non-compos mentis? Right, that's the kill shot that Trump missed, but not a huge deal. Okay, so then we get into the section of the debate where Joe Biden decides to go after Trump on Charlottesville and character and democracy and all this. Now, this is an argument that was core to Biden's argument in 2020 and since January 6th. The problem is in the polls, he's actually losing this argument now. In the swing states, a plurality of voters believe that Biden is more of a threat to democracy than Trump. So Biden was asked a question, and I actually think that this is the most underreported headline from the debate, is what Biden said in response to this question, because it's actually quite dangerous. He was asked a question by the moderators about whether people who are voting for Trump are themselves a threat to democracy. Right? Not whether Trump's a threat to democracy, because Biden says that all the time, but whether people who are voting for him are a threat to democracy. Now, huge mistake that's happened in debate before is presidential candidates slandering the American people or the part of the American people who are not going to vote for them. This happened multiple times in presidential history in the modern era. Remember Mitt Romney suggesting 47% of Americans aren't going to vote for me anyway, they don't pay taxes. And a huge number of people were very upset about that. And you remember Hillary Clinton in 2016 famously suggesting that people who didn't vote for her were deplorables. You remember Barack Obama won despite this, but he suggested that a huge swath of Americans were bitter clingers, clinging to gods and guns and xenophobia. So last night, Biden is asked whether everyone voting for Donald Trump is themselves a threat to democracy. And here is his answer.
Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas,
repeating himself,
fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are.
Okay, and then Trump immediately comes back and calls him a liar, because he is. The Charlottesville lie that Biden suggested, that Trump suggested that the white supremacists at Charlottesville were very fine people on both. He was talking about people opposing the statues coming down or in favor of the statues coming down. And Trump shellacks him on that. But the takeaway there is that, and the thing people are missing, is Joe Biden literally just labeled 75, 80 million Americans traitors. He's been doing that kind of sotto voce. He's been pretending it's only the ultra MAGA Republicans. And it turns out, no, if you back Trump, he thinks you're a threat to democracy. That's what Joe Biden actually thinks. Well, Joe Biden has sicked his DOJ on Donald Trump. And here's the thing. The IRS will be sicked on you if you're struggling with back taxes or unfiled returns. The IRS is escalating collections by adding 20,000 new agents and sending millions of demand letters. Handling that alone can be a huge mistake and cost you thousands of bucks. In these challenging times, your best offense is with Tax Network USA. With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved clients millions in back taxes. Regardless of the size of your tax issue, their expertise is your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities like garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, if you're missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then they'll create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Go check them out right now. Tax collection season has begun. Tax Network USA can help even with state tax issues. For a complimentary consultation, call today, 1-800-245-6000, or visit their website at tnusa.com/Shapiro. That's 1-800-245-6000, or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro today. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. And it was just a litany of bad news for Joe Biden last night. At one point, Joe Biden actually acknowledged that inflation was bad. And of course, Trump then jumped on him and said, well, I mean, it is your fault, dude.
I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window.
Absolutely right. Now, I will say one of the funniest moments of the night is when the discovery was made that America has H2O. This is a discovery that was made by President Trump, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least play the clip because it's hilarious. Here was President Trump last night suggesting that America was well endowed with resources when he was president. Here we go.
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
Best H2O ever.
We were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
Okay, now, one of the actual telling clips here, again, I think there were actual moments of quite lucid policy exposition here by Donald Trump. So I played you what I thought was a great moment earlier where he discussed Joe Biden's foreign policy from sort of a 30,000-foot viewpoint and just crushed Biden over it. Then he hit on it then. He said, Joe, you don't fire people. Like, your military made a complete hash out of Afghanistan. You didn't fire anybody. And he doubled down on this here. I thought this was an extremely strong point from Donald, particularly because, again, his entire brand is you're fired. And what he says here is so, this is actually quite well articulated. Here's President Trump last night.
I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders.
Brutal. A brutal and factual hit there from Donald Trump. Again, Joe Biden thinks he's done a good job. That's the part that's amazing. Joe Biden and his team think that he's actually been a good president. And now, Joe Biden was asked by the moderators about his age at the debate, and it was a giant fail. Not only was it a giant fail, it then turned into a dueling conversation about the respective candidates' golf games, which only served to prove that Scotty Scheffler should actually be president of the United States. But I will admit, this was highly amusing stuff. So Biden tries to answer the question. He can't. He starts garbling his message, babbling about golf. And then Trump comes right back at him because Trump likes golf. He owns golf courses. And it goes downhill from there. Pretty great.
I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate. And now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent.
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them. Both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it.
Grinning weirdly.
But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway. Just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. By the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
Trump chiding Biden, let's not act like children, is amazing. That's amazing. He's always like, oh, you're 6'5" and 225 pounds. And I used to have an 8. By the way, ain't no way that dude has an 8 handicap or a 6 handicap, okay? Like, not even close. So when Trump, I love that that's the thing that pisses Trump off the most. He's like, okay, you've wrecked the country, you've opened the border, you've destroyed us on foreign policy, you've wrecked the economy, but you so you're going to sit here and tell me that you got a 6 handicap with a swing looks like it came off my dead grandmother? You got to be kidding me. It's so good. It's so good. And it's so bad for Biden. I mean, that's really what this is. Just terrible all the way around. Trump makes another good point. He says, listen, I wish you were a great president. If you're a great president, I'd be enjoying my life right now rather than being under prosecution.
I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman.
Okay, he's right about that. Okay, Joe Biden has a final chance to sort of clean up the mess, right? He's got a closing statement. He couldn't even put together his closing statement. He couldn't. It was not possible for him to do so. Watch as his brain just falls directly out his ears.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior. No matter
I can't do
what
it. There's a minute left of this clip. I can't do it. It's not
need.
possible to watch it. It's not possible. Like, it's just not. Okay, so the aftermath of the debate for Joe and Dr. Joe is maybe the most horrifying part of this, because the horror sets in the more you listen to this and the more you watch it. Because yes, it's funny, and yes, it's ridiculous, and yes, it's humiliating, but it's also just sad. It's also just sad. Dr. Jill, the greatest doctor in all the land, she's such a great doctor and such a great person. She has stood by while Joe Biden humiliated himself in front of billions of people. Billions of people. Joe Biden, this is right after the debate, he just is smiling, looking wildly out of it, just looking wildly out of it. And then Jill guides him off stage. Here is some tape of Jill. This is right in the aftermath of the debate. Jill takes his arm, and this is kind of by accident. CNN shows this. You can see, look at this. She holds his arm. He's taking tiny little steps so he doesn't fall off the stage. And she's guiding this corpse down the steps. And it's just sad. It's just humiliating. It's really, really sad. Right? He can barely move. And then Jill does some sort of victory rally with Joe. And she treats him the way I would treat my 4-year-old coming home with finger paintings. That's the way she treats him. Listen to this. It's like stomach churning to watch these clips of Jill Biden, who is just, I don't think is a particularly good person. Here's Jill Biden, certainly not a very good wife. No wife should put her husband in a position like this, or allow him to put himself in a position like this if you're non-compos mentis the way Biden clearly is. Biden is smiling randomly, looking out into nothingness, and here's Joe Biden treating him like a child who just came home with a C on the spelling test.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question.
You answered every question. And he's smiling like, it is my birthday.
And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Oh, my goodness. Well, she wants to be president because she is the effective president of the United States right now, having earned precisely 0 votes and having no qualifications for literally any job, because an ed degree gives you nothing, especially an ed degree from a university named after your husband. In any case, she then cut another video touting his performance, which she put out on the interwebs right afterward. Of course, she's the one who has to put out the video because Joe is being packed back into the coffin for tomorrow morning. Here we go.
You heard Joe's heart tonight on the debate stage. He wakes up every morning thinking about how he can make the lives of Americans better. He's the president we need, the president you deserve. Sign up at joebiden.com to help finish the job.
Jill Biden, what a piece of work. Seriously, what a piece of work. Okay, so the fallout sets in immediately. There are 2 snap polls, one from CNN, one from the Daily Mail, same result. CNN snap poll, Trump wins this debate 67-33, which just informs you that 33% of the American population apparently suffered a brain aneurysm last night. The Daily Mail did a poll of independents in the United States, 68-32 in favor of Donald Trump. And again, 32% of the American public apparently is just as brain dead as our current president. The Biden campaign tried to trot out Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris is in an awkward position because the reality is that no one in the Democratic Party wants her either. And that's got to just grate on her, right? I mean, she's sitting there and she's going, I'm so good. I'm a good candidate. Why don't they just hand it to me? And the entire Democratic Party is like, no, we'll prop El Cid on the horse over here. We'd rather go with Bernie, not Bernie Sanders, like Weekend at Bernie's over here. We'd rather that. So she goes on the networks and she has to somehow try to spin this thing. Anderson Cooper, who is a Biden lackey extraordinaire, loves Joe Biden, loves the Biden administration, would be a member of the administration if you weren't getting paid so much money on CNN. Right? Anderson Cooper's like, can you spin this? Should you spin this? How do you spin this?
What we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong. And
but I'm sorry,
that
on
cannot
substance
be
and
debated.
policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
All of this preceded a Kamala Harris meltdown on Anderson Cooper. At a certain point here, she's tired of hearing the truth, and so she's just going to go full-scale Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men.
I got the point that you're making about a 1.5-hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But
whether
is that
it be
the man
infrastructure,
who we saw
former
on the
guy,
stage
other
tonight?
Guy,
is that the
other
person
guy
you
on
see
the
in
debate
meetings every day?
stage? The person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5 years, up until today, performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals so that we have an infrastructure, a real infrastructure plan where we're putting trillions of dollars on the streets of America to upgrade our infrastructure. Whether it be the person I see in the Oval Office who is meeting with heads of the military and the intelligence community and in the Situation Room.
She's still trying to play it, right? They're still trying. And by the way, we'll get to it in a second. Everybody in the Democratic Party is calling for Joe Biden to stand down. And he's like, nope, I ain't going nowhere, suckers. I'm here and I ain't going, I'm going zero places, says Joe Biden. CNN has reported this morning, quote, not only does the president not plan to drop out, Biden remains committed to a second debate in September. Will he even be alive in September? I mean, he's worse than he was in February. It's a disaster area. So, okay, how bad is the fallout in the media? So again, as I said at the top of the show, the fallout here is not just for Joe Biden. The fallout is for members of the media who lied to you, who lied and lied and lied and lied to your face. They were part of an actual media-led conspiracy to pretend that Joe Biden was totally fit, he was totally fine, that behind closed doors, that dude is a chess grandmaster capable of defeating Bobby Fischer, that behind closed doors, he, like Thomas Jefferson, is writing in different languages with each hand simultaneously. That behind closed doors, that dude is performing quadratic equations and higher level calculus and decoding the secrets of quantum mechanics. And it turns out that he has no functioning neurons. None. He is gone. So they are humiliated. So let me just read you a few quotes from the New York Times today. These are all different columnists, okay? The New York Times, their op-ed page today is just a series of pieces of various Democrats crying. Our Tumblr overfloweth. There is no more room. Every Tumblr in all of a 100-mile radius of our studios here has been overflowing all morning. Serious plumbing issues happening all over the Nashville area. Here is Thomas Friedman. And this is delicious because I think Thomas Friedman is a terrible person and a horrifying commentator who literally last week suggested that Hamas ought to remain the ruling party in Gaza. So here's what he wrote. Quote, I watched the Biden-Trump debate alone in a Lisbon hotel room, and it made me weep. I cannot remember a more heartbreaking moment in American presidential campaign politics in my lifetime, precisely because of what it revealed. Joe Biden, a good man and a good president, has no business running for re-election. The Biden family and political team must gather quickly and have the hardest of conversations with the president, a conversation of love and clarity and resolve. To give America the greatest shot possible of deterring the Trump threat in November, the president has to come forward and declare he will not be running for re-election and is releasing all of his delegates for the Democratic National Convention. Oh man, when Thomas Friedman is weeping alone in a Lisbon hotel room, I mean, wow. What an image. Usually he's just weeping in the back of taxi cabs. Frank Bruni, same day, same newspaper. Quote, 10 minutes in, I had a knot in my stomach. 20 minutes in, the knot was so tight it hurt. We finally beat Medicare, he said early on, and I had no idea what he was talking about, unquote. Nicholas Kristof, ally to the President of the United States. Quote, President Biden is a good man who capped a long career in public service with a successful presidential term. But I hope he reviews his debate performance Thursday evening and withdraws from the race, throwing the choice of a Democratic nominee to the convention in August. Michelle Goldberg, New York Times, quote, Biden looked anxious and sounded lost. There will now be a new chorus of cries for him to drop out, and I'll be joining it. The Playbook, Politico headline today, quote, Democrats wake up to a nightmare. Quote, the mass panic among Democrats began last night about 12 minutes into the debate. President Biden was answering a question about the national debt. He confused trillionaires and billionaires, but corrected himself quickly. He stumbled over millions and billions, but again fixed it. Then he started to tick off the things he could pay for with his tax plan. Then something went wrong. As he reached for a final example, he lost his train of thought, stumbled around, and just paused while staring at the floor. When he popped his head up, it seemed like he had recovered his thought. Instead, he blurted out this nonsensical line. We finally beat Medicare. Our phones blew up just like yours. A sample. I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue, said a Democratic House member. I'm on a lot of chains of people gaming out how Biden withdraws. Need open convention. He has to go. Who are the grandees who could tell him to go? Obama, Clinton, Gore, Pelosi, Clyburn, a former senior Obama official wrote. I think there's shortlists being made. Whitmer, Beshear, Cooper, Newsom, a Democratic operative said. A Clinton alum sent a train wreck gif. The second half of the debate was mildly better for Biden. His campaign insisted their dial-tested focus groups showed improvement. But when it came to focus groups of Democratic insiders, it was too little too late to allay the deep sense of foreboding that rippled through their ranks last night. So about 15 minutes into the debate, when it was clear that Joe Biden was not with it, they started sending out a message, the Biden campaign, that he had a cold. 2 sources said he had a cold. Do you mean that his body has assumed room temperature? That was not the result of a cold, my friends. For a cold, right before a debate, just grab some Dayquil and go for it. Nope. That was a president whose brain has turned into tapioca pudding. It is full-scale disaster time. They are pulling all of the ripcords in the Democratic Party right now. Dave Wasserman, who is a really good pollster and also tends toward the left, he said, this debate making abundantly clear Biden's insistence on running for another term, when 66% of voters in our swing state polls believe it's likely he won't be able to finish a second term, has gravely jeopardized Dems' prospects to defeat Trump. All the members of the so-called Lincoln Project, all the never Trump Republicans who stayed never Trump Republicans all the way till 2024, the last people in the last Japanese in Okinawa, 40 years after the collapse, still fighting World War II. Charlie Sykes and Heath Mayo, they tweeted out last night, folks, this is not good at all. Heath Mayo, not good, folks. Disaster, in fact. Casey Hunt of CNN tweeted out in the middle of the debate, the voice, open-mouthed look, and visual contrast between President Biden and former President Trump all have Democrats I'm talking to nearly beside themselves watching this debate. That was 48 minutes into the debate. Joe Scarborough gave up the ghost this morning. So Joe Scarborough, who was the guy who just a few months ago was talking about how Joe Biden was the kindest, smartest, most brilliant, most witty, most generous man he had ever known. This morning, he was like, I think he might need to go. I'm not sure that anyone has humiliated themselves on behalf of Biden worse than Scarborough has here.
His presidency has been an unqualified success. If, however, you believe, as do I, and as do so many people who watch this program and who fear just how dark of a place a second Donald Trump term will take America, then I think it's critical that we ask the same questions about this man I love, respect, and whose public service in saving this country from Donald Trump over the last 3.5 years I honor and always will. I think we have to ask the same questions of him that we have asked of Donald Trump since 2016, and that is, if he were CEO and he turned in a performance like that, would any corporation in America, any Fortune 500 corporation in America, keep him on as CEO?
Oh, boy. Van Jones, who is a truly honest person. I know Van. I'm friends with Van. A truly honest person who calls it like he sees it, even when I think he's wrong. Here he happens to be dead on. Here was Van Jones last night on CNN.
I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain.
David Axelrod, formerly of the Obama campaign, he too was in a state of lamentation, sackcloth, ashes, the whole deal.
You know, he seemed a little disoriented. He did get stronger as the debate went on, but by that time, I think the panic had set in, and I think you're going to hear discussions that I don't know will lead to anything, but there are going to be discussion about whether he should continue. And I think part of it is Donald Trump did not meet his mission either. He could not resist the temptation to be nasty, to prevaricate about a whole bunch of things.
Just a disaster area. A disaster area. Joy Reid, MSNBC, same story. Here she was saying, like, the quiet part out loud, that is now out loud. Right? We were all saying it, and then we were yelled at for saying it. Here she is saying it.
I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate with
Obama world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives, with campaign operatives. My phone really never stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic. The people who were texting with me were very concerned about President Biden seeming extremely feeble, seeming extremely weak.
Okay, so in just a second, we're going to get into, can they actually replace him? Because that is the question of the day. That is the thing that Democrats are wondering. But to hear that discussion, you have to be a member. Become a member right now. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.